Everyone. We're just waiting for a few more people. Quick intro. I'm Anita Moorthy. I'm CMO for Rock Salt. My background is in B2B marketing. I've done B2B marketing for like 25 years. And it's Arjun. He's the CEO. He worked at HubSpot for 6 years.
That's right.
6 years. And then he also had a startup before this, which was in the news space, if anybody wants to know. And fun fact, we both are brother and sister, and hence the same common name.
Yes. She's my big sister, 6 years older, never lets me forget it.
That's right.
Anyone that has a big sister or a big sibling, my goodness, do they rub it in every chance they get.
That's right.
But it's great. It's great. If you've ever had the chance also to work with a sibling, it is really, really special. I'm very, very lucky. All right.
Really quickly, what Roxol does, because many of you probably don't know, we actually help B2B companies build influence and generate inbound interest from online places where your ICP hangs out. So we have something for LinkedIn, Reddit, as well as Slack communities. So that's what we do. We really believe that this is the way in the new AI age to build inbound organic channel. All right. Who this webinar is for? It's really for marketing and leader and founders who are interested in investing in Reddit because they know that their ICP is there, they want to build long-term credibility there, and they want to influence LLM answers that pull from Reddit. This is not for those people who are looking to have a shortcut to Reddit, like multiple accounts, fake accounts, upvoting, etc. Those are not part of the offering. So you might be disappointed if you're looking for that. Okay. Okay, I think most of you know this, but really quickly, why Reddit is becoming such a big deal for most people is because Reddit is consistently cited by most LLM answers. So ChatGPT, this is from a study that SEMrush did in October of last year, which showed that Reddit was like number 2 cited domain in 13% of the queries. And Google AI obviously cited it, like this was the 3rd most cited source in all its search answers. So if you can make if you can get your brand mentioned in the right relevant threads, then Reddit is a great way to influence LLMs. And that's why I think many of you are here to see if you can do something. And as Arjun said before, I'm sort of doing this presentation, but Arjun's on the chat, so please feel free to ask him questions and he'll be answering them as you ask, so that I hope you get your questions answered before the webinar is over. So the first thing is, what is it about Reddit? Like, what is it about a Reddit answer that gets cited in LLMs? That was our very first question that we decided to do some research in when we were building this product. And we looked at a lot of academic research. We did some of our own sort of tests, not huge tests with like millions of queries, but some control versus our tests. And what we saw today, at least, there are really 3 things that seem to consistently influence LLMs to potentially cite a Reddit thread if Reddit thread is part of its answer set. So just quickly, if you don't know, most of these AI tools, they have training data. So that's data that they have already been trained on. And as part of that, there may be some Reddit information and threads that it cites. I mean, it shows up in answers and there's no citation. So that's from the training data. But all these AI tools also have like a live search. So when someone asks a query, then the AI tool looks at its training data, but also does a live search. And in that live search, if Reddit happens to also make the set based on what the user is asking, then this is when these kinds of factors seem to make a difference. So the one that we found the strongest correlation, and it's been sort of validated by the SEMrush study and also by a lot of academic papers, is query relevance, which means how closely is what the user is asking matching a Reddit thread. So we did tests, for example, where we saw a Reddit thread, which was like 48 hours or 2 years old, and we asked the exact same question in like a ChatGPT or Perplexity, and we saw those threads actually show up in the answers. So the query relevance seems to be the strongest correlation. And what that means is for you when you're engaging on Reddit, especially if you're thinking about right, if you're at the place where you can actually author content, then you want the content to be in a question format which would be similar to what someone might ask about your space. The other is entity rich. Arjun, did you want to say something about that, or are you
Yeah,
good?
so in a nutshell, when an LLM's looking to say, is this thread relevant? It looks for the question at the top. All Reddit posts have a title of some kind. If they're phrased as a query that really matches the query, that's the most important thing. The next is the structure of the answer. If it's easy to parse, you've probably seen this elsewhere. LLMs tend to like summaries and bullets. I don't know if I'd go hog wild with that on Reddit. I think it starts to look very artificial. Just having something that's easy to read. Don't make someone read like a whole long page just to get to the answer at the very end. So having summaries and clear question answers in that is good. That's when LLMs are like, okay, this thing is going to answer the question I have. And also, the more it has specifics rather than general things. So if it's just like, some polemic on like, here's what's happening in the industry, that's probably not going to do well. But if it's like, here's a problem I had, here's how I solved it, here were problems I ran into, this tool worked, but this tool didn't, and this was that kind of richness is what an LLM will think, wow, there's a lot of answers in here. And so that seems to influence its decision to pick up that thread over a thread that's maybe more generic.
Exactly. Exactly. If you think about Reddit, people ask very specific questions. This is my use case. This is kind of, my budget. And those are the kinds of questions that people are asking in LLMs, which is very different from what they might have done on Google. People would have asked more, keyword like searches. So that's why if you're answering a thread on Reddit or if you're posting, the more specific information you have about, names of products, versions of products, pricing, etc., those result in rich, like those are usually something that LLMs like to look at. Indexability, there's some subreddits that may not be indexable. Generally, obviously, that's a very well understood rule that the subreddit you're engaging in needs to be publicly indexable. On the right side are things that we tested, but we don't have strong academic data or like large tests that have been done. So we have put it in this future category as things that we think a lot of LLMs are going to need to do because otherwise people are going to game the system. It's kind of like the early Google days where it's like, okay, let's just stuff the question like this, let's just do this. And right now, a query from a very niche, unknown subreddit could show up. An answer from a Reddit thread with 0 votes or like 4 votes could show up. And we think that this engagement, for example, as a proxy for the quality of answer and the credibility of answer will soon start to matter. Same thing with Reddit health. There are some subreddits which are very well moderated and have very strict rules about posting in it. So you need to have a certain amount of karma and you can and cannot do things. So obviously, if something is getting upvotes in that kind of community versus another community where it's much more loose, the rules, then the quality of data and the accuracy of data is going to matter. So we think that Reddit, subreddit health and scale will matter as well. And then the last is recency. Like I said, right now, depending on your query, you will get in your answers threads which are like 4 years old. We think that LLMs are definitely going to prioritize recency over just the query relevance in the near future.
One thing that I can add to that is if you want the canary in the coal mine, it's probably YouTube. If you think about YouTube, when Google chooses to cite a YouTube video or show a YouTube video when you have a question, you can see that it looks at some of the things that Anita and I have listed in this future column. So a YouTube channel that has hundreds of thousands of subscribers versus one that has very few subscribers but have very similar videos, same sort of title, well, the one with more subscribers tends to get featured more often. So the fact that Google has already made some of these decisions, you can guess that the LLMs are going to wind up there, especially because behind the scenes, a lot of them use search, whether it's Bing or Google, they won't always tell you. So that's why we think this future state is what you should plan for now. Try to be in good subreddits that are healthy, well monitored, try to be in threads that are good engagement, and are relatively recent, and then you're sort of building for the future rather than the current.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. So that's kind of the background. We just wanted to show you that in terms of, how we are thinking about Reddit and its influence on LLMs and the kind of research that we've seen. So now let me go into what you guys are all here for, which is what is the right Reddit playbook? A lot of you have said in your registration that you're lurkers, you haven't, you don't know anything about it. And to be honest, that's where I was. 3 months ago, I did not have a Reddit account. I was afraid of Reddit. And today I can clearly say that I'm past that 300 karma point, which is the one that most communities have as a minimum, at least a well-moderated one. And I'm actually finding it enjoyable, and I'm finding it valuable. So that's what we're going to share. And a lot of those learnings, as well as Arjun, who's a long-term Redditor, and the rest of the engineering team, who are all long-term Redditors, we've all put together in the product that also is meant for people like me, many marketers that want to engage on Reddit, want to do it the right way, and just don't know where to start. So that's what we'll be getting into now. Okay, this is something that Arjun pulled up, and it's from a subreddit called r/space, where they apparently April Fool's Day, they have people put a few pixels of whatever their community is about. And I think it's a really nice visual to talk about what Reddit really is. It's not a monolithic, community. It's a giant mix of lots of different types of community, each with its own culture, rules, etc., that you really have to know if you want to engage and not get your content thrown out, which is what also makes it both interesting and a little bit daunting if you're new to Reddit. Arjun, just feel free to stop me if you want to say something. Okay, so the first question we always get asked when we are helping our users is, okay, you sold me, I want to be on Reddit. How should I set up my account? Should I say that I'm part of this company? Should I not say that I'm part of this company? What's the best practice that you recommend? And there are really three ways that people can set up their profile, and I'll talk a little bit about the pros and cons of each. The first is anonymous. As you know, Reddit comes up with a handle when you start, like mine is, I think one of it is like learning always 99 or something like that. And that is the subreddit, that is the Reddit culture, to be anonymous. And that's a good place to be if you want to be a peer in a community and engage authentically in a community. You have an area of expertise, but you're speaking as an expert in that space within a community that you're part of. This is really good for having lots of different employees within your company be engaging on different subreddits, and it allows more flexibility to speak freely and make authentic connection. The downside, obviously, is that your profile doesn't say anything about where you work or what you do, and so it's harder to build brand recognition. And so that's kind of one option. The second is the one that we recommend usually to companies that come to us and want their people to engage on Reddit, but also want to have a brand association. So we say, depending on your karma, if you're early on in your journey in Reddit, we say make it a hybrid profile. So that means you have a generic anonymous name like everyone else, but you have in your profile some description of what your company is all about. And I'm going to show you mine really quickly so you'll get an idea. So I've used this. This is my profile. Let's just view it really quickly. So it says here, I use my actual name. I could have left one of the names that Reddit comes up with, but I use my name. Usually having some part of your name, so like Jack or Dave or Carol, and then having something which is like, I don't know, Carol the cat lover or something like that is fine. But having some part of your name, I think, gives it more credibility, doesn't look bottish. And then I say working in a B2B go-to-market data and AI tools, thinking a lot about how experts can engage online and where meaningful conversations happen. So I'm clear that I'm working in a company and I'm doing something around AI and getting experts. So if someone looks me up, they can kind of see, but I haven't explicitly mentioned my company Rock Salt yet. And what we recommend is use that initially because all Redditors, the first thing they do when you comment or post is check your profile. They check your posts, they check your comments to see, are you real? Are you a real human being? And we'll talk a little bit about strategies to do talk about that. But so that's and as you get more karma and you get more credibility, people will start to think less of you as, trying to ruin the community. And then you can actually say working at Rock Salt in your profile. Like I'm going to go edit it now that I'm over 300 and I'm going to say I work at Rock Salt.
Yeah, like my account is about 8 years old because I've been on Reddit for a while. And so mine, I do say I'm CEO of Rock Salt. I don't go too much into detail, but yeah, I'm very transparent on what I do there. But I'm part of a lot of Reddit communities. I don't just talk about Rock Salt. I spend way too much time talking about the Premier League football for no reason. So if anyone ever looks at my profile, they're like, okay, clearly he's not a shill just for this company. He seems like a normal human being.
Yeah.
Well, normal in some sense.
Yeah. So, and I've said also what the sort of the drawbacks of each of these are. When you have this hybrid one, which is what I'm doing, it kind of blurs the line between personal and company. So I still need to be very careful about how much I talk about, what I do and the company versus what I don't. And then when I have more the company name in it, then definitely there's higher scrutiny, less transparency, but it's better for brand awareness. But by this time, hopefully you've built enough credibility in the subreddits that you care about that and we'll talk about how to build that credibility even if you're speaking on behalf of a company in a little bit.
Any questions on the account setup and profile setup? And if you have, please post it on the chat pane. This is usually like the first stumbling block. When Anita and I ever meet new people, that's their basics. Like, I don't even know what to say on my profile, or I
Yeah.
don't even know if I should take the handle that was assigned to me. So hopefully we've answered some of this. But again, if you have questions, post in the pane or even email us afterwards.
Yeah, and we'll be sharing this recording with all of you, so no need to worry about that. Okay, so like now you've set up your account, the next question is how do I build karma? In Reddit, there are some subreddits where you cannot even upvote or comment if you don't have a minimum amount of karma. In some subreddits, it's 100 karma points. In a lot of the really big ones, it's 300. And so, what do you do? How do you get to 100 if you can't even comment? Well, the good news is there are some subreddits that are no karma or low karma. And so, for example, Ask Reddit or new to subreddit, or there's one called No Stupid Questions. These are all subreddits that we know of that don't require any karma. So what you see here is a visual of what so the way rock salt works is we onboard you and then we start sending you a daily digest, and then depending on where you are in your journey, so if you have no karma, we'll be like, okay, Michael has no karma, we're gonna start getting him some to build karma using these low karma or no karma subreddits and start getting you. And then we also tell you to go into some of your interests. So I love cats, so I'm into two cat subreddits. One is called Cats Are Adorable, and another is Cat Advice. And there I'm genuinely just being a good member of society because I like cats and I have questions about cats. So those are ways in which you can build your initial karma. Be in interest groups or these open subs that we will highlight for you. And really the reason to do this is because you want to show Reddit that you are a normal human being with normal or varied interests. You're not just there to, market about your company. So that's step one in terms of building karma.
By the way, as Anita just sort of switch gears briefly, a lot of the screenshots you're going to see will be from the Rock Salt product. Basically, the playbook that we advocate is what we built the product around. So you're going to see a little bit of back and forth between the product and the playbook. You, of course, do not have to use Rock Salt to do the playbook. Like, go navigate
Yeah.
on your own. It's just that it makes it a little bit easier. And if you're trying to do it for professional reasons, you might find the product valuable. But by no means do we want this to be like a pitch for you must use Rock Salt at all. Just bear with us that some of the screenshots are from the product.
Yeah.
That's all.
Exactly. So here's my sort of daily digest, and you see that my karma is 336, which is why I'm not getting the open subs. But if you had a lower karma or you're starting out, you would get these different sections. So I'll talk about this one later, but here's one that I'm part of, and it'll give you some. So this is basically the kind of digest you get. And for each one of them, we'll give you some information about the subreddit. We'll tell you about the thread and why we think that that thread is important for you to engage on. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but that's what I meant when I showed this visual is it's basically a section in like an email digest that you get. And we chose email digest because really the persona that all of Rock Salt is built for are subject matter experts or like executives within companies that just have no time, don't want to know about how the nuances of Reddit or LinkedIn work, but they have like real insights and real expertise to share. So we think it's a real win-win if we can make it really easy in 10 minutes a day for them to engage in relevant threads. So that's why email is one of the form factors in which we deliver this. Okay, moving on. So the next thing is discovering the best subreddits. And this is actually a really important thing. And I'm going to just switch over to, again, this view just to show that there is a real way to do it. But there is a strategy behind this that is important to understand. There are lots of tools actually on the market that help you to do Reddit monitoring. And what most of those tools do is they tell you to put in a few keywords and then they go and find any relevant conversations based on those keywords wherever it's happening potentially, or whatever subreddits are part of their database. We don't follow that methodology because our end goal is to help you influence threads that show up in LLMs. And if you want to do that, if you want to actually be able to post in a way that LLM threads pick up or comment in threads maybe that are slightly older, you need to build credibility and standing within a community. Otherwise, that kind of action is going to get you thrown out. So what we actually recommend is we say for your space, which subreddits have the maximum number of relevant queries that are already ranking in Google that you should now start building credibility in. So we recommend 3 to 5 subs max for you to consistently engage and start building reputation. So that's the background behind this view. And so what you can see in this view is like it says here r// 33% of queries that would be relevant, meaning queries that a buyer would ask about the space that rock salt is in this space. And it also gives me some sample queries, tells me a little bit about their subreddit, how many members they are, and also tells me if I've ever contributed in this in the last, in this place. So it's a good way for me to say, okay, these are the ones that I should focus on, and I have a reason why to do it. And I can always come here and say, you know what, actually, no, this is not good. I can remove it, and I can add some of the other ones that are getting recommended. But again, you don't need to use a tool for it. You can just, use Reddit and search on different queries and see which ones come up, or you can go to Google and you can search on typical queries that your buyers might ask and see and then limit the answers to subreddit and see which subreddits come and then go and start engaging in those.
So there was a whole bunch of things that Anita said there. I'm going to recap a couple of things because they're very important. So fundamentally, LLMs, when you ask them questions, behind the scenes, they do search a lot of times. And they seem to think that Reddit has the most honest answers. So that's why they like Reddit. And that's where we are trying to build a position in Reddit. If you want to figure out which subreddits seem to show up, that was what Anita was saying at the end there. Go to Google, type a query that you think your buyers are having. So let's say you sell ball bearings or something, and then you have some question on like, what is the typical density that ball bearing should have for XYZ, whatever. Make up some query, and then add this parameter in Google search, say site:/reddit.com. And what that means is limit the answers to Reddit. So we're kind of trying to force the hand of Google just to see what shows up if we just want to see Reddit. When you do that, you'll get a whole bunch of Reddit threads. That's effectively what Rocksalt is doing behind the scenes. We build those queries, we run it against Google, we limit the search space to Reddit, and we see what keeps coming up, which subreddits come up, which queries come up, figure out a whole bunch of things, and then we say, hey, Anita, for the product that you have, for the kinds of queries that your buyers seem to be having, a lot of the answers keep showing up in r/sales or r/content marketing. Maybe that's where you ought to build a presence. And that's what Anita was saying at the start. We're not just trying to get you to jump into random conversations all over Reddit. That's crazy. It's like, there's millions of communities all over the world. You'll just be spread too thin. We're saying find the really good ones that matter and then be a member of them, contribute, be helpful, be a useful member. And that's when you can start to actually author posts and comment on older threads that will influence LLMs. So hopefully that recap helps a little bit.
Thanks, Arjun. Okay, and then the next is, okay, so now you found your subreddits. How do you start commenting? This is where I was like actually petrified. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do something and I'm going to get thrown out. And to be honest, I did get thrown out of one subreddit. So that was a good learning for me. And some of the things that I have mentioned in this slide are very much from, real experience. So basically, like I said, the goal is to build credibility in a few subreddits. And the way you do it is 10-minute engagement. Like if you had rock salt, then you can use the emails that we share with you where we surface the most relevant conversation. I didn't go into this in detail, but in addition to the subreddit based on who we think, what buyers are asking about your space, you can actually limit it even further because during your onboarding, you can say the topics you're interested in. And this is really important if you think about a company that maybe has two or three people engaging, and maybe one person is a sales engineer and they're very technical, and the other person is a product person or an executive that wants to do something different. Each person can have their own Reddit setting and have different topics, and so we'll be engaging on different threads. So this is a really easy and I think consistent way to get lots of people within your company doing a little bit, 10 minutes a day, and building a more broader brand awareness than just having marketing do it or just having one person having all the burden. So anyway, this also limits the kinds of daily discussions that you get within this email digest. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so you get this digest and then you do 10 minutes and we tell you what to do. So we, first of all, actually, let me actually make this go directly. So here, if you look at r/SAS, it says, hey, Anita, you've contributed 13 times in this subreddit. So this is a good time for you to author a post. We have this 9-to-1 rule that you have to give value at least 9 times in a subreddit before you actually post or ask for anything. And then, so that's the first thing. The second thing is to help you with commenting even is to say, what is the median karma? So what are the kinds of people that are posting in this and what's their karma standing and how do you compare? So if some subreddit has like people with 300 karma and you only have 23, we would say definitely just read, get to understand it, build your karma, but do not, post or comment. So we'll give you the right guidance so you don't have to worry about, how the subreddit works. You can just think about engaging in the right ones. And then actual thread, it tells you also why is it that this specific thread is being surfaced versus another one. So we say, hey, Anita, based on, your interest in Reddit marketing and the company's focus and blah, 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 this is why we think this is a relevant one. So we give you a lot of metadata to help you understand why we're telling you to engage in one thread versus another. And I can tell you that at least a few of our users are using some competitor tools like F5bot is one that I've heard of from our users. And they say that the relevancy of the threads that we are surfacing is definitely much, much higher than some of these other tools. So just FYI, if you are looking for a tool.
By the way, that bit on that Anita's showing you the median karma, one way to think about it is imagine that you went to a cocktail party and you kind of like try to read the room. What is everyone else here? Are they like senior to me, junior to me? How should I be? Well, Reddit's like that. There are all these different subreddits, and you just walk into a room, and if you don't read the room, and you start talking, you might come off like an idiot. And so that's partly what we're trying to do is say, well, wait, is everyone here much, much more experienced than you? Maybe relax and just listen a bit and then slowly peter in versus actually, no, you're quite an experienced Redditor compared to everyone else here. It's okay if you want to stand up and say something. So that's kind of what we're trying to do is to be very subreddit specific with our guidance rather than this is Reddit advice. No, Reddit's a collection of communities. Let's try to be specific for each of the communities.
Great. I do have something around disclosure. So in case you are at the point where you can comment in a thread, and if you happen to be commenting on a type of question which means you are able to talk about your brand or what your product does, then we always recommend that you disclose your affiliation. And the way to do it in a nice way is you say, I work at X and here's how we address this. But really, the ones that do really well are the ones that mention you and some other competitor of yours and give the use cases for which you're better or your competitor is better. So basically, maintaining neutrality is the way to not get kicked out. So that's, and there is a blog post that is very extensive in terms of giving you lots of examples of how to comment on different types of thread. Like maybe one is a pricing question, maybe one is actually saying something about your brand in a negative light, like what should you do? So we have like lots of actually very specific examples in the blog post, and that you can access rocksalt.ai, go to the bottom, go to blogs, and I think it's part two of the Reddit series on commenting and engaging.
We'll send that as well as a
Yeah,
follow-up email.
yeah, maybe we'll send that as well. Yeah. So anyway, so that's why I haven't gone into a lot of detail in it, but there is a lot of detail in that post. And then there's posting. So we also actually help you to author content that is appropriate for Reddit when the time is right in the subreddits that you've been engaging in. Like we said, you need to at least do 10 comments, you need to at least have 100 karma points, and posts must be on a topic that is relevant for that subreddit. So, you'll be reading that subreddit, so you'll sort of understand what kind of questions get more engagement versus less engagement. So you will, at that point, I think, be in a good position to be able to post. There's a lot of nuances to posting, and this is, by the way, where I got banned from one of the subreddits, because what I did was I took content that was, so first of all, I commented on a subreddit and it got upvotes. So I thought, okay, they like this topic. And I'd actually posted about it in my LinkedIn and it also did well. So I took my LinkedIn one and, I think I massaged it a little bit. I don't remember, but that's what I posted. And I just got banned from that subreddit. And the learning for me is it's not just about the fact that it was neutral and didn't mention my name and it was on a topic that seemed relevant to the subreddit, but you also have to add human experience. You need to make sure there's no AI sign. I never got a response back from the mod, but I think the reason it got banned was because the way that I wrote in LinkedIn looks very structured and formatted. And that style of writing that is good for LinkedIn doesn't work for Reddit. Reddit needs to be more informal, more based on human experience, and more helpful in its tone. So I think that's what happened. But anyway, to help you with this, we have something called Super You in our product. I don't know that I want to go into too much detail on this, but we basically have a Super You editor that allows you to create content. At the end of the content creation, it'll ask you, are you trying to do this for LinkedIn or Reddit? And when you say Reddit, it will make sure that some of the things that I've mentioned in this in that slide are taken care of and it's appropriate for Reddit. So that's on the posting side. And again, we have in the blog post for this lots of different example of different types of posts that you can do, like how to lead with value, how to lead with learn like experience that you've learned, with lots of different ways to give you ideas on how to create your first Reddit post. But again, this is something that their tools can help you with. But again, if you don't want to use a tool, there's definitely lots of examples on how to do it. Okay, so the last bit is influencing LLMs. And so what we do, and you saw this in my subreddit, is when we see that you've got certain standing, so r/slash where I have more standing, it's now telling me, hey Anita, you have enough standing. This thread is ranking in Google for your buyer search. So use this, and now that you have standing, here's a suggested approach on how you can engage on this thread in a way that is neutral and Reddit friendly. And the difference between this thread and the ones that are in the other section is some of them are like older. So you can see here, this one is a 6-month-old thread. Typically in subreddits, in Reddit, people don't like a new like a older thread being commented on. Generally, and again, every subreddit is different, but in some subreddits, there's an explicit archival of threads after 6 months. In some, it's there, but again, people don't want, they don't like people just commenting on a thread to get LLM influence. So you have to have that standing. You have to know how to comment on it to be able to go back to some of these threads that are now ranking in Google that could help you. So that's kind of the ultimate step in terms of what you're trying to do in this. I keep having to like do this all the time. Any questions or Arjun, anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's good.
Okay, so that's on the influencing LLMs. And then there's this. So, we have some users, they love the daily digest, they're commenting, they're building karma, and they're like, okay, but what's all this amounting to? Where are we going with this? What can I show my, my executive? What can I report on in terms of how we're doing in this Reddit uh, initiative? So this is where we have the idea again. Remember, this whole product has been designed to help you with LLM influence as your number one goal. Obviously, this can also help you with inbound leads because some people that are engaging on certain threads or asking certain questions could also be people that you might want to reach out to on a separate DM. And I can talk about that if that's of interest. But keeping to the LLM theme, we have this screen which is called LLM influence. And what this is doing, is in the background, it's again looking at all those queries that we first ran that are relevant to your space. And then it's buckets it by different topics because that's easier to understand. So for example, rock salt, we would like to show up for things around thought leadership, social listening, community building strategy, executive personal branding. So these are all topics that are very relevant to what rock salt does. And within each topic, there are threads. These are actual questions in Reddit. As you can see, it shows which subreddit it's being in. And then for each of them, rock salt tells me how I'm doing. Like, oh, these are threads. I'm all set. So let me just quickly go through this again.
Go to the next one, Anita. This topic, it'll just be a little easier.
Oh, okay. Social listening?
Yeah, just so you'll see it.
Okay. Okay, good. So in this topic, for example, for each thread, it tells me whether my brand has been mentioned, whether a competitor has been mentioned, and if my team has commented. So there are some where, someone in Rock Salt might have commented, but maybe it's just a helpful comment. We've not actually managed to put Rock Salt's name in it. So then it says you're all set. In some of these other ones, this one, for example, it says, okay, Anita, you can actually comment on this. And I know that because, I have some standing. In some of these other ones, social media marketing, there's a thread that's showing up and it's telling me that I can't actually comment. I need to actually first go and build standing before I can comment on this thread. And then once I'm done, I think, exit out. But this is like an easy way to see at a top level what your goal in Reddit is amounting to. And at the very top level is something that maybe you can put in a slide or something. It says you have 11% visibility, you have 9 brand mentions, and 23 comments that you've left. So it gives you a quick overview on sort of an aggregate across your team, what you've been able to do in Reddit that you can always look at. So that is on the measurement side. I think I'm almost at the end of the thing. Yeah, so this is...
By the way, one thing to mention on all the stuff on LLMs, indexing, all this stuff is it's sort of directionally accurate.
Yeah.
The reality of LLMs is they're probabilistic machines, right? When you ask a question, it's trying to give you the most likely answer. It often is not even the same if you ask the same question twice. It's always slightly different. So the best we can do is sort of say, well, it looks like they care about Reddit, and it looks like these are the Reddit threads that keep coming up. Let's try to get you into good standing, position you in a good way, and then you're influencing LLMs. It's very tough to be much more precise than that. I even shudder sometimes at metrics like average coverage or visibility. It's true, but there's not like a precise science on this. In fact, one of the reasons why a lot of what we do here on the screen is around Google search and not LLMs is at least Google search is repeatable. If I ask Google a query, it mostly gives me the same results back in roughly the same order. And because we know that LLMs use search, then we just sort of short circuit the process and do a lot of our research with search. But if you ask an LLM something, boy, its questions, its answers vary so much, even for the same question in the same way, which is why I don't want this to come off as if you do this, you're going to show up in LLMs for sure. I don't think anyone can say that. What you can say at best is, hey, you're showing up in the subreddits, in those threads that LLMs are likely to cite and likely to see because of search. That's as good as it's going to get in terms of promises.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so what does success look like if you start engaging in Reddit? We believe that by 3 months, you should be able to comment, you should be able to get upvotes on your comment, people should be replying to your comments, and you should be somewhere between 100 and 300 karma, which is kind of like the golden uh, minimum, I think. By 6 months, you should start getting product and content ideas from Reddit. Reddit is an incredible place to get ideas for content based on what real people are asking in your space. So you could start doing that. I mean, you could start doing that even in month 3, but from month 6, you should definitely be doing that. You can start doing this thread coverage on Google ranked threads and start seeing your product occasionally even being mentioned by others, not just in Google LLMs, but maybe somebody else mentions it. That would be great. And by 12 months, you should have a good reputation in 3 to 5 subreddits. Like people like your content, consistently engage with your content, upvote with your content, and maybe you even are starting to see some LLM AI references coming into your marketing automation software from from this space.
I know that sometimes you might be thinking, oh my God, like 6 months, 12 months, that's a long time frame. But if you think about it this way, the subreddits we're identifying are the most important in to your ICP. Some of these could be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people potentially. You want to build good standing in that space. This is going to be a long-term asset. It's not a passing fancy after a few months, like, oh, we're in LLMs. All right, we're done here. Mission accomplished. You're going to be here for a long, long time. And like Anita is showing, there's a lot of value you get directly. Insights on what people are talking about, content ideas, support questions being answered, what people are saying about competitors. It's incredible. So it's okay that it takes a little bit of time because you're building an asset for the long term for your company here.
And I just want to add 2 things. One is a case study. So when we first started on this Reddit journey, we met this company, it was in cybersecurity space, and they are building credibility in one subreddit. But the guy they have building that credit, like being there, he spends 10 minutes, maybe 3 times a week or whatever, has done such a good job. And he's by no means saying, I mean, he's disclosing exactly who he is. He has his name and he says he works for this company. But he's done such a good job of adding value in that community that people like him and by extension the company. And now the company is able to not only answer and engage organically, but they've started to do webinars and ads and surveys and put it into this community, and they get a ton of engagement, a ton of leads from this one community. Because they have built this reputation and credibility and standing, they're able to actually translate it into traditional marketing tactics much more easily. And the CMO told us that about 10% of their revenue is coming from this one subreddit. So if done right, and if you do the investment, we do think that Reddit can be a really good place, especially if your ICP is there.
By the way, just to put more emphasis, that's $100 million revenue company.
Yeah.
So it's not 10%
Yeah.
of nothing. It's a real number, and it's from one subreddit, and they just consistently invest in it. If you see, funny enough, the guy who they nominated is a sales guy, which I was
Yeah.
like, it's kind of a technical product. I'm a bit surprised, but this guy is very technically savvy, and he answers questions like all the time. It's amazing. So Reddit, for if your ICP is there, it might be the very best investment you can make.
Okay, this I don't know if I don't know if this is a question people have. This is a little bit more on like a bit more advanced, but some people have asked us, should we do for our company, should we have a U slash rock salt and R slash rock salt, and what do they mean and how does that work? All the things that we've been discussing today are in the leftmost corner, which is a person within your company, SME engagement, and so it's U slash, the person's name. The U slash brand name and the R slash brand name are when you're a bit more advanced. And I'll tell you quickly what the difference is. The U slash brand name is kind of like a company page on LinkedIn. It's the official company handle on Reddit. And these are good for like official support and company announcements, etc. And you shouldn't use this to seed demand and act like a person. It's really a way for people to come to one place to get the truth about whatever is going on in the company. And then the R slash brand name is like a Slack group within Reddit or a community. It's basically community within your own subreddit, basically, is what that is. So I have claimed R slash rock salt, but I'm by no means doing anything there because if you want to do that, it requires definitely a lot more commitment and investment because you have to manage this community. You have to make sure there are rules and you're engaging with them. There's content, people's questions are being answered, etc. And this is really good if you already have a user base and so have some brand visibility. Then you can have this as a central place for other users to interact with other users and for you to interact with them and get product feedback and have users help each other, all that kind of stuff. So that's when you want to do the R slash brand name, but it does definitely requires a lot more effort. So we think only established brands should do that. So that's really quickly in case you
Right.
this.
One of the tips though is um, if you are even if you are starting out, it might be a good idea to just go reserve
Yeah.
that name, the R slash. So let's say I work for Acme, ball bearings or something. Go and reserve R slash Acme ball bearings or whatever name you want. And even if you're not using it, just hold on to the name. Probably be useful later.
Yep, exactly. Okay, and then I think I've already touched on this, but there are a lot of I don't know if tools, but definitely agencies and smaller freelancers that can get you to be on Reddit and even mention your brand or your product in a way that may not, it definitely is not the way Reddit likes it. So, asking for upvotes, like some people have said, well, can I have multiple accounts where one account posts a question and the other one upvotes and answers the same question? These are all tactics that are frowned upon by Reddit. And as more and more people now want to be on Reddit because of this whole LLM influence, they're only going to get stricter about it. And if you get banned, that's it. You cannot use that IP address and create another one. Like they actually monitor IP addresses. So there's really no value in doing this if you are thinking about Reddit as a place which can help the company long term.
By the way, just to be clear, so the people who make the decision to ban you from a subreddit are called the moderators, or sometimes affectionately called the mods. The mods are just random, normal human beings. And if they make a decision to ban you from the subreddit, that's it. It's final. There is no appeals process. You cannot write to reddit.com and say, can you please reinstate? There's no one that's going to care. Another mod in that sub would have to fight for you, and these guys are overworked and not paid, so they basically won't. That's why we're trying so hard to get you not be banned. And Reddit itself, the platform, is an extremely sophisticated platform. There's this idea of voting rings. Anita kind of hinted at this, like, let's say I put something and then all the people in my company go and upvote it. Oh, isn't that going to be cool? Well, Reddit has the software to detect voting rings and they look at patterns on who votes on what accounts and how often it happens. It's extraordinary. It's been around for 10 years. It's better than any other platform I've seen to detect that kind of stuff. So yet another reason to just be good, be nice, be a helpful person on Reddit. It is a fantastic asset you're building, and you don't have to take the shortcuts that you might have heard elsewhere.
Exactly. So don't mislead, impersonate, overt promotions. These are all things that we've talked about, and I'm going to be sending this slides out so you can read it. But I think that's the last slide. I think we have one other slide. Yeah. So In terms of next step, hopefully this has been useful. We will email this recording out. Please follow us on LinkedIn. It's Anita Moorthy and Arjun Moorthy. We are, because of what we're doing with our product, we're sitting on a lot of data and we're going to be sharing a lot of data-driven insights and reports. We'll first be sharing it on our social handles. So if you care for that, please do follow us. If you think that rock salt can help you, if you're at a stage where you think that might be of use, then please go to rocksalt.ai/Reddit and sign up there. It's literally 10 minutes to onboard. It's a very smooth process, and you can at least see if this is of value. And the third thing, as I said, is check out our Reddit guides. They are all on blog.rocksalt.ai, or if you just go to rocksalt.ai, go to the bottom and click on blogs, you'll see the 3 guides that have been built, and they have a lot more detail in all the areas that we touched upon today. So that's it.
So last thing I'll say, just final word. I sincerely believe Reddit is one of the best corners of the internet. It's good. It's very, very useful. So if we're going to do this, let's do it right. Let's continue to make this place a good place. Monica just asked, how do you ensure that your IP address doesn't get banned? I don't know that there's like a hard and fast rule, but the general guideline, Monica, is if you're a good citizen of Reddit, like you're participating in a bunch of subreddits, you're professionally active, maybe even personally active, that's it. You're going to be fine. And if everyone in your company is doing that, great, they'll all look fine, as long as they're not trying to game the system somehow to upvote or make you, prop up an account. That's usually what gets you in trouble. But generally, yeah, that's it. It's funny, actually, even when I started Anita like 3 months ago, before she had joined Reddit, most of us, it's like, man, I need another social network, like I need a third arm. It's like no one wants to yet another social network. But the thing is, Reddit, unlike every other social network I've seen, is not pretentious. And largely because it's anonymous, right? All the handles are there. So you tend to just get better answers, nicer information. You can have more authentic conversations. Yeah, it's good. So I know it can feel like we gave you a lot of information. Oh my God, there's all these things to think about, and I read it, blah, blah, blah. Check it out. Go create an account, poke around. You don't need to read, you don't even need an account. You can just
Yeah.
read anonymously. Just look around and see if you think, I think there's something interesting here. I think, some of these subreddits have discussions that are useful to me professionally or personally. And then there's tons of free tools out there. If you want to use rock salt, it's fine as well. But poke around, and if you think there's something there, then I would say explore and do some of the things that we gave you in the playbook today.
Yeah, I would say a good next step, if Reddit is of a strong interest, is set up a profile, like a personal profile, and go join some Reddits that are subreddits that are based on your interests. Like I did cats, like I don't know if you guys, we have someone who joined pottery, r/pottery, because she's really into pottery. We had someone who joined r/news. I think that could be stressful, but she joined that. So there's a lot of interest-based subreddits. There's I think 300 million communities. I'm sure there's something for everyone. So at the very least, set up a profile, go join some subreddits that are of personal interest to you, and start engaging there and reading and see if you want to then take the next step. Is there any more questions, Arjun, that you've
No,
not answered? Are you good?
I think we're good on questions. Email us anytime, follow us, whatever. Yeah, hopefully if we can help you guys be more successful with the work, that'd be great. Just let us know. But otherwise, thanks for attending. Have a wonderful Friday evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are. Stay warm and have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.